Welcome back to Benny's Custom Works, proudly supported by Valvoline and Sparesbox. Don't forget BCW5 on checkout. This week we're kicking along with the Sigma. It's exhaust week this week, so we're going to be making the section from the headers back. I actually already fitted the headers to the car. I've done the final fit. I've also done a full heat wrap on them, and my little trick is to actually paint over the heat wrap with high temp paint. For me, I found that the heat shrink, the heat wrap doesn't break down as easily, and it also stops a lot of that little fiber shedding. So I've had good results with it. People will have varying opinions. The other thing I like too is it actually seals the wrap in the fact that you can't easily get oil contamination into the wrap either. So if you were to have like a rocker cover gasket leak, it's hopefully going to be a lot easier to clean up. Subarus are really bad for it. We used to do this a bit back in my old job, was paint the heat wrap, and it seemed to work a lot better and be more resilient against absorbing oil or power steering fluid and stuff. So yeah, it can be a good tip. Use it if you want, use your own discretion. But yeah, I think it works pretty good. But anyway, we're going to dive back in and make this whole exhaust. So let's get to it. Sweet. Me hoist noise. We're about to chuck this flange plate on, but I thought I'd also show you guys what I ended up coming up with the Gearbox Crossmember. I ended up basically cutting off what we did the other week purely because I wasn't really happy with reusing the rubber on this end, because the rubber's actually pretty badly perished and I couldn't find replacements for that end of it. So that being said, I've actually just used some pretty thick steel angle here and basically just trimmed it up to suit. And I've also basically picked up all the reinforcement ribs and welded those back to the piece of angle as well. And removing the rubber here, I don't think it's going to be a massive issue because the transmission is still rubber mounted. So I'm not actually sure why Chrysler or Mitsubishi did that originally, but yeah, the box still moves around, no worries. So yeah, I'm not too fussed by that. And now we're going to throw our flange plate on and we can start this exhaust. I don't really want to put it straight on the flange because there's no spigot. Like, this is designed to have tubes slip inside of it. So I'd be butt welding it to the flange, or I'd have to grind that flange out. So I think I might even bring it up here actually, because there's a bit more room there. Because I do want to try and tuck this exhaust up as high as possible because the car's not particularly high. Actually, that's one thing I need to do before we keep going. Make a tail shaft. Swish. Just basically want to have a guide so that I don't make an exhaust where the tail shaft has to go. I'm about to start welding the exhaust system together, and we're actually using all stainless materials today in the exhaust. So I've actually changed over to a 0.9 stainless wire as well. I'm going to be basically using a combination of MIG and TIG today. So we'll be MIG welding any of the sort of dissimilar thickness materials together using a MIG. So the flanges, also the flex to the tube, and also the muffler and the resonator to the tube. But we'll be TIGging all of the tube to tube. Butt joints will be TIG welded, but we will be still tacking them with the MIG on the car. So yeah, I've decided to go to the stainless wire so that we've got the same material the whole way through and not having any dissimilar tacks that we have to grind out and kind of muck around with. So it'll hopefully make it a little bit quicker, and it should be a nicer system because it'll be all stainless, apart from the headers, which are mild to do. Luckily, we've got this really expensive welding fixture table. It's pretty pricey, but it seems to do the job pretty well. So we've got to the point now where we've basically got our whole system mapped out. The thing I do want to check though is how much tube I've got inside the muffler, because it basically is actually a 2-chamber muffler the whole way through, and there's a little passage at the very back which basically converts it to a single in, 2 out. So I want to make sure that I don't have too much tube basically going into the muffler, because it's going to stop the exhaust dispersing into those 2 chambers, and it'll basically restrict the flow to the point where we may as well have made this thing out of 1.5 inch tube. So I'm just going to pull basically this mid section out now, get it to the point where it basically touches on everything, and then when we make the hangers I'll just drop it 5 mil. So I'll basically tack the whole thing now, take it off, weld it up. Once it's final welded, we can put it on and actually just weld the hangers on the car, and then that'll be it. One for good luck. Just going to take our 1,000 horsepower tail shaft out now. So I'm just taking this exhaust off. We're just actually going to hang it a bit lower so that I can tack and weld the final hanger in place. But yeah, all things have gone pretty well, and just got to nuke this last one in and cover myself in spatter, and it'll be a great time. So I'm going to be honest here, I have actually had this running before. I got a bit impatient the other day and got it started, so it has had a first start, and it went fairly good. Had a few coolant leaks actually that I've already fixed. So basically going to check the oil level, give it a quick top up and fire it up. Stop it. And this is how Benny exploded his car. Now I'm the choke. I wish I had a tail shaft. the bonnet shuts. Sure does. Well, we've had another pretty successful day today. We've got the full exhaust system done. We've actually got our first decent run. I had fired it before, but this is the first time we've actually had it running nicely. Played with the carbs a little bit. They're very, very lean. So all I've done is basically wire the choke shut as a stopgap. We are definitely gonna get Isaac down here to give me a hand to actually set these up because he's got a stack of Weber jets and all sorts of bits and pieces, and he's very experienced with setting them up. So yeah, he's gonna be down in the next couple of weeks. But I do wanna get it to a point where it's drivable because we need to be able to do some load tuning and that sort of stuff as well on the road. The one thing you did mention to me is I need a wideband bung, so I'm actually gonna have to take the exhaust back off and weld a bung into it. But I'll probably just put that in the rear section rather than putting it in the headers, purely because it's a 2-second job to drop the headers down just behind where the collector is. So I think to drop the midsection rather than drop the headers. So yeah, I think that'll be an easier job rather than trying to pull the headers out and do that way. But yeah, we do need to get a tail shaft in the car. We also need to change the diff center because I'm going to use a Japanese domestic 1.6 litre car rear diff center. I believe it's a 4:3 ratio, so it'll wake it up a heap. So it should, the 2.6 with the Webers, the high comp and the cam, coupled with the 5-speed and that diff center, should make the thing pretty fun. Should make it pretty peppy for what it is. So I mean, it's definitely never going to be a fast car, but be an enjoyable car on the street. I think will be pretty cool and yeah, should be really fun to cruise around in. I'm still undecided. I'm actually going to be selling this, so yeah, I'm sort of tossing it up because I'm trying to thin the herd a little bit because we're starting to amass more cars than I know what to do with, but we'll probably touch on that sooner or later. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you next time.